Welcome, adventurers! You've made it to the Wind Down, the live stream at the end of the Geekverse. It's a chill place to hang out here as the sun sets on another day. We're here to have a little chat, reflect on the day's successes, and prepare for a better tomorrow. So settle in with your favorite beverage this evening.
May I tempt you with a cup of chamomile?
Why, thank you, Dory. I would love a mug of tea this evening, but perhaps you would rather have some coffee, though I do recommend a decaf this late in the evening. Or perhaps maybe a cold brew is more your style.
Oh, no thank you, Dory. A little red wine. For me, I think.
Sounds like an excellent choice, Gandalf. Whatever you want, it's yours. Could I offer you a bourbon, a martini, an old-fashioned, or something perhaps a little stronger? Ugh, well, I mean, if that's really your thing, then okay, but I hope we can find something a bit better than that.
Romulan ale? Why, Bones, you know this is illegal.
I only use it for medicinal purposes.
All right, now we're talking. I'm Heath, and I'll be your host. Welcome to my home. Come one, come all, writers, artists, sculptors, storytellers, board gamers, streamers, dungeon masters, fans of sci-fi, fantasy, geeks of all kinds. Whatever your fandom, you have a place here. For soon it will be time for another long rest so that we can recover our hit points, our spells, and our abilities, so we'll be ready to fight on for another day tomorrow. But first, we all need a little time to reflect, because you've survived another long, perilous day of wilderness treks, dungeoneering, and random encounters, and that's worth celebrating. Let's tell the tale. It's time for the Wind Down. It will improve your life. It really will. Give it a chance. Here we go. Good evening, everyone. Oh, where's my... Do I have... Oh, yep, I got fog. We got fog tonight. Good evening, everyone. Should I turn off this light? Let's see. I think that's better. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wind Down. It's Wednesday. It's the Wednesday night Wind Down. I'm so glad that you're here. Nose Plays says, hoping you had a productive day, catching up on the Wind Down as I wrap up work tonight. Yeah, let me change. I've been changing up my... there we go. And I need to go over here to red. No. This is the Wind Down. I'm trying to set this all up with different colors. So the Wind Down used to be themed purple. I've been trying to reset all of my... there we go. The Wind Down is purple now. Hoping you had a productive day. I did not as productive as I wanted, but I'm still trying to get back in the swing of things as the result of after Christmas. So, you know, I lost time, and I'm not sure where I lost it, but I started getting up early again this morning and started getting back on track. So, you know, it's about to be New Year's. So we've got New Year's January 1st. But then we also have the Chinese New Year. We've got two different things here that we're looking for. Let me turn down the music. Now, I don't believe in astrology, right? I'm not an astrology kind of person. But Chinese New Year is based on the new year according to the lunar calendar, right? So we've got New Year's as January 1st, which is our Gregorian calendar, right? And then, but the Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year, isn't exactly on the January 1st. It's Chinese New Year is like January 22nd or something this year. It's a few days later. I think it's still in January, but I think it's late January. And there is this time called the Jade Tunnel that I've heard of, which I do like. I like this concept, even though I'm not into astrology. But according to this line of thought, the Jade Tunnel is a place that's neither here nor there. And I think of basically two periods of time being in the Jade Tunnel. The Jade Tunnel is the period between Christmas and the Gregorian New Year. You know, you got about a week here where it's after Christmas, but it's not quite the New Year yet. But then we also have this period between when it's the Gregorian New Year, but it's not quite the Chinese New Year yet, not quite the Lunar New Year. So that whole period, I think a really great idea is to regard this as the Jade Tunnel. So this is a time for preparation because you're neither here nor there. We're trying to get ready. We're about to make 2023 a big year. I have heard from so many people that 2022 was just horrible. like creative people who are like, oh my God, 2022, I just bombed. I mean, that was the case with me. That was the case with me. I had six months of time during last year where I was the least productive that I've ever been. I completely lost about 6 months worth of life because of that. I'm not gonna do that again. But I've heard that from so many people. So it just seems like the people who I'm in contact with, this is bias according to people I talk to, but it seems like so many people I talk to have said that. So I'm like, you know what? All right, we're going to use this time in the Jade Tunnel here to really reset ourselves, get everything ready. And then when we hit the Chinese New Year, man, we're going to be flying. We're going to practice. We're going to start at January 1st. But then, man, if things aren't quite going right, or we still have some additional practice we need to do, or whatever that is, that's still the Jade Tunnel. Then when we hit the Lunar New Year, man, we're going to be flying. We're going to be flying in 2023. I really think that. I think a lot of good things will happen in 2023. Bubba says, good evening. Good evening, Bubba. So glad to have you here. And Ryan, glad to have you here as well. We're going to be talking about, well, whatever you want to talk about. If you bring, let's see, it may be that we end up doing the wind down like once a week. I would like to do it twice a week, but at least once a week. The Wednesday night wind downs, I think that's important. I was just talking to the Discord server. Let me go ahead and grab a Discord server link just in case you find this live stream and you're not already part of the Raven Keep Discord server. Let me copy this and put this over because I really want to do a whole lot more with the Raven Keep Discord server. Because I was talking to, let me type this out, Raven Keep Discord server. There's the link right there. That's just gone into the chat. So if you discover this, if you're watching now and you're not part of the live part of the Discord server, please click over there and join. And if you discover this a bit later, please go ahead and click the link and join as well. So what was I saying? Oh, we were talking in the Discord server about productivity. We were also talking about, we were talking about productivity, right? I was talking about the new year being a really big year, big time for everyone. We were having a really great discussion about productivity in the Discord server today. There's a productivity section or productivity channel under the Better Living section of the Raven Keep Discord. And we were sharing different YouTube videos and things like that to watch. So I think if we prep 2023, we can all hit 2023 in a big way. We're going to be talking about whatever you want to talk about tonight. I'm taking questions and I'm also taking topics. So if you have suggested topics, you have questions, I'll be happy to take them. One of the things that I want to talk about, I've taken the Accolade off of the shelf over here, off of the wall rather, and I have brought it over here so that we can talk about knighthood as the feminine imposition upon the masculine. That's going to be our major topic tonight. If you have other things to talk about, please let me know. I'm happy to talk about whatever you want to talk about. But as far as things that I have been thinking about and things that I will talk about tonight, I think a good topic would be knighthood as the feminine imposition upon the masculine, which is embodied here in this work of art called the Accolade that I have hanging up behind me. And I always keep here in the office. So that's what we can talk about here. I would like to, so it may be, what we were talking about is holding ourselves accountable. That's what it was. On the Discord channel, Trey was talking about how do we hold ourselves accountable, because that's such a big part of productivity. How do you hold yourself accountable? You got to be accountable to other people. And that's what I perceived the wind down as, because I need that as well. I need to be accountable to you. I wasn't as productive as I would have liked to have been today. I'm looking at my my notebook here, and it's just not working. What I did today is not working. I didn't even go for a walk. I got to get back to hiking here, but it's been so cold. I think it's just about to warm up. It probably was about that today, but then by tomorrow, maybe at least where I am, it'll have warmed back up and to a temperature at which I have the equipment to actually go out for a walk. So perhaps tomorrow I should restart the afternoon adventure in order to get a we'll get another stretch going. Another sequence going because I don't want to break the chain. So I got to start a new chain because of all of this. I tell you what, let's breathe. Does everybody have their own favorite drink tonight? I was given some whiskey as part of a Christmas gift. This is called Heaven's Door. Heaven's Door double-barreled whiskey. I just got it out. I got it for Christmas. So I thought, you know what? I will drink a little bit of it here tonight on the wind down. So that's what I've got. But your drink, your favorite drink for the evening, may be something a bit different, and that's perfectly fine. Drink whatever it is that you like to drink. So first of all, let's breathe. Let's breathe in, deep inhale, and complete exhale. We'll do that twice. I feel better already. So I'm going to take a sip of my drink now. Follow along. It'll make you feel better too. Definitely follow along. So we were talking about holding ourselves accountable. And actually, all right, I want to get really hardcore about this starting January 1st. Tomorrow, I want to start practicing that. But, starting tomorrow, January 1st, I want to get hardcore about this because if we're only going to be meeting once a week for a wind down, I hope to do it twice a week, but maybe we might be moving to a once a week wind down thing just on Wednesdays. We all have to be really serious about holding ourselves accountable to making sure that what we wanted to happen all week actually did happen. So first of all, we want to say, did you have a good day? We've got a code for that here. We've got a code for that. You have two options. You can either be GD, that stands for good day. Ryan's talking about whiskey. Hang on. Ryan says, I'm a definite fan of whiskey and bourbon. So that sounds perfect right now. I don't have anything in the house. Oh no, you don't have any in the house right now? This is what I got. And I've drunk quite a bit of it over the last few days. But Heaven's Door double barrel whiskey. So I decided, well, I'll try finishing it up here. I got to get also back on diet. I want to get to 175 pounds because if I get to 175 pounds, I've got a gift I'm going to give myself, which is a new belt for adventuring, an adventuring belt. And then we'll load it out maybe on YouTube or something like that for an adventurer's loadout. And also I have some cosplays that I want to do. And I got my first piece for the cosplays. I'm not really a big cosplayer, except for there are a few that I would really like to do, about 4 that I would like to do because I want to be able to play those characters. So I thought, what I should do then is that I should get the costume in order to play those characters and do like a YouTube video about them. So I've got about 4 characters that I really want to play. And I got the first cosplay piece in today for one of them. I posted it to Instagram. I don't have it sitting here. But I want to try that. So that's one of the things I want to do here. Ryan says, nice. Well, thank you, Ryan. So cosplay, that's coming up. We might have to have a new place on the Ravenkeep Discord server for cosplay. Like I said, I'm not a big cosplayer, but in fact, I've never cosplayed before. But I thought, hey, it would be fun to play certain characters. So I should get their costumes going on. A big problem here is I had no core creative time. Let me see where I am. Oh, no, I forget where I was. Okay, so there are 2 options here. GD. Okay, GD is good day. All right. So GD in the chat if it was a good day. So I'm going to say GD because it was a good day. I did get up. But I'm still trying to get back in the habit of things after having been away for Christmas. And I don't think that's a problem because I had basically the best Christmas that I have had in many years. And that's because I said, I'm going to focus on Christmas. I'm going to get in the Christmas spirit. I was definitely in the Christmas spirit in the lead up to Christmas Day. And I said, hey, we're going to be in the Christmas spirit. So I got myself in the Christmas spirit. I decorated. I took down the Christmas decorations you see behind me. But I got in the Christmas spirit. I put up Christmas decorations. We had fantastic family parties, including yesterday when I took my nieces and nephews to play laser tag for Christmas because I'm big on the experience-based Christmas. That was very big. So that's a good day. So those were all good days. It got me a little off kilter as far as my schedule goes, but I'm about to get back on it. I'm about to get on this hardcore. And I'm going to be accountable to you guys. I'm going to be posting in the Discord server. I'll be reporting here on the wind down. You can do it too if you need accountability. But what I'm saying is I don't mind having been off of my schedule because family is so important. Meeting with friends is so important. I had a fantastic Christmas with family. It was so much fun. Got me a little bit off of schedule. Plus, I did do the trip to Neutral Zone, which I'm still recovering from. It seems like it was a while back ago, but I'm still recovering from that. But all of that was so fantastic. I don't have a problem with that. It was worth it as long as you're on your schedule the rest of the time. So we're about to get back on schedule here. So I say it was a good day. But your only other option is WIT. You either had a good day, GD in the chat, or WIT. WIT means will improve tomorrow. So either GD or WIT, will improve tomorrow. Some people are both GD and WIT. All right. But Trey was talking about this in the Discord server. That maybe there is some way that we can hold ourselves accountable without necessarily having to talk about individual circumstances. But that's exactly what I was trying to do here with the wind down. That's what the wind down is supposed to be. That's why we are doing GD, good day, will improve tomorrow. Did you move your big rocks? Those kinds of things. You don't have to disclose what they are, but here we're going to hold ourselves accountable. And I'm in the groove now, man. We're about to hit this hard. I've always said I want to work hard. I've got a lot of work that I want to do. The question is, what do I work hard at? And I think I finally have the ideas about what I'm actually supposed to be working at that's going to make a difference in life. So I think I've got that. So you're either GD or WIT. GD or WIT. Chaos Incarnate says, hey, just got here. I'm drinking Coke Zero. Hey, I drink Coke Zero too. No problem. Eating extra hot and spicy egg roll to counter what might be the coop sickness. Uh-oh. I hope that's not the case. While I paint my war bears from the Frozen Horror expansion. Oh, I was just about to show off my Frozen Horror, guys. I've got them sitting right here and a camera on it. The Frozen Horror, I have been enjoying painting mine because I'm trying to get whole boxes painted up. And I want to do a Hero Quest Dinner and a Board Game solo edition live. It'll be based on the Frozen Horror, and I'm almost done with that. There have been fantastic pictures of miniatures posted to the miniatures section of the Raven Keep Discord. So definitely do that. Oh, and the Chaos Incarnate says, despite a little blah, I'm good day. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Good day. I'm very glad to hear it. We've got a GD from Chaos Incarnate. So this was a good day. I'm glad to hear it. So, like I said, if you have questions that you want to talk about tonight, please let me know. I will be happy to take questions tonight. My topic tonight that I'm going to talk about is the knighthood of the feminine as an imposition upon the masculine. But I will take whatever questions you might have. And also, hey, if you have, Ryan asked, okay, Ryan, this is what's happened here. Did I ever find my lost Yeti? No, I never found the lost Yeti. And I'm upset about that. Really upset about that. But I can't play Dinner and a Board Game. I don't want to start Dinner and a Board Game without 3 Yetis, because probably you're going to need 3 Yetis. And I only have 2. So I never found him. I don't know what happened to him. He must have gotten lost. I mean, he must be here someplace, unless he fell in a trash can or something, because he must have been lost someplace between here and the office and when I was priming them. Because I was actually looking at the pictures, because I took some pictures to post to Instagram of priming the Frozen Horror box set. And the pictures that I took of that only had 2 Yetis. So, I mean, it's possible maybe one of them fell off someplace in the yard or something. I mean, I have no idea. But I did find that somebody had a Yeti on eBay. And so I bought 1 Yeti on eBay. So it's more expensive than all the others. I was like, I got to have that. I got to try painting it. I need to have 3 Yetis. So I have another Yeti inbound off of eBay. And I hate that because it's ridiculous. I mean, I had all of them. Wait, you have only 2 Yetis? Wait, what? Am I not missing a Yeti? Wait, hold on. Now I got a problem. Hang on. Wait a minute. I thought you were supposed to have 3 Yetis. All this time? Wait a minute. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. This box says you're supposed to have 2 Yetis. Why did I think you were supposed to have 3 Yetis? Like, for 2 weeks, I've been thinking you're supposed to have 3 Yetis and that somehow I lost one. What was I reading that said you're supposed to have 3 Yetis? So, Ryan says you only have 2 Yetis? Ryan says, oof. Okay. I'm sorry. I can't help but laugh. Well, I might as well laugh too. Because, like, I've been talking about that like on every single live stream that's had to do with this. I've been like, I only have 2 Yetis here. I'm supposed to have 3 Yetis. What happened to them? I thought that was impossible, that I had lost a Yeti between my office and the front porch. Like how in the world did that happen? But so someplace I must have seen or must have misinterpreted 3 Yetis. Okay, so I've got another Yeti coming off of eBay. So apparently I do have just about all of them done. I can't, God, that's where my mind is. There's so much stuff going on. I don't know how that happened. I thought there were supposed to be 3 Yetis, but all right. Well, all right. That's okay. It's actually, I'll turn on the auxiliary camera here in a moment. I don't actually really like how I painted up the Yetis. They're okay. There's still a little bit more to do with them. But then maybe if I have some more Yetis, then I'll be able to paint them up even better. Whatever. Yep, it happens. Right. That's too many things going on. I'm glad nobody said anything like that until right now. I've been talking about where's my 3rd Yeti. This is the first time somebody said in the chat, wait a minute, there's supposed to be more than 2 Yetis. All right. Exactly. Ryan says, well, looks like you have a practice one. Yeah, exactly. So I'll show these in a moment. So those are practice. They're not done yet, but I can do better. So, right, I've got extra Yetis then. Chaos Incarnate says, I've dropped minis that just evaporated into the ether. Well, I've done that too. I thought I did that this time, but maybe I didn't then. Some gamer says, yeah, it's a bit blurry. I'll turn on the secondary camera here in just a minute. Chaos Incarnate says, and with that clear floor, no way for them to go into furniture, just gone. Well, I do not have a clear floor. That's another problem here. I have been trying to clean house since I started these live streams 2 months ago. Because, like I said, if you've been following this live stream, one of the reasons that I started the live streaming is because I had basically the worst 6 months of my life as far as productivity goes. I was doing nothing. And I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me. Actually, as it turned out, what was wrong with me is that I was suffering from extreme depression, and I didn't realize that. And then I got live streaming, and I've turned that around. But my house, as far as like cleaning the house, hasn't really recovered from that 6 months worth of being completely out of action. And then Christmas hit, and also the trip to neutral zone and things like that. And like I was trying to clean up today, and I was worrying that because there was the cleanup from like 6 months ago, but then there's also like wrapping paper and stuff like that, where I was wrapping presents and things like that and trying to get them ready to take to Christmas parties. So Christmas, I would run in here and wrap presents and try to pack up again and then run back out. So there's still a lot of cleaning I have got to do. The Nose Play says, this 3rd Yeti needs a special paint job and a place in your Hero Quest game. It does. And now, wait a minute. Chaos Incarna, is that you under a different name in the Discord server? Because there were some absolutely beautiful Yetis and also ice goblins that were posted to the Ravenkeep Discord server. If you want to join, look up in the chat here and grab that link. Because I really want to paint some that look like that, because I like mine, but they're not as pure white as what was posted to the Discord server. And man, they are fantastic. Yeah, exactly. A super Yeti. That's exactly what we do. Chaos Incarnate says, I've been painting my Hero Quest off and on since March. I'm very familiar with what minis are in every box set. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is Balatron. So if you are here and you're part of the Ravenkeep Discord, go to the Discord and then go to the miniatures channel and check out Balatron, because Chaos Incarna right here posted some beautiful, absolutely beautiful Yetis and ice goblins. He's got the paint scheme down on ice goblins. The ice goblin paint scheme he's got absolutely fantastic. Forgot about that. Yes. So I thought that was the case. I thought that might have been you. I thought that was the case. Okay, so that's what's happening here. Celebrating. Oh, well, let me go through here. We're celebrating victories. If you have anything special that's happened to you that we should celebrate that nobody else might want to celebrate with you, well, we can celebrate here. So let us know, and we will celebrate. Put that in the chat, and we will celebrate that. And likewise, if you have had any random encounters, anything weird happen to you, well, hey, put that in the chat too. We can talk about weird random encounters as well. We can definitely do that. So I can share my day, but let me come over here and go to, see, Bubba says, I'm new to painting miniatures. I've loved HeroQuest since childhood. What primer and sealer do you recommend? Okay, I would say it depends on one of two things. Let me bring this up over here. Now because this is what I've been trying recently. This is not the best camera that's over here is the auxiliary camera. Okay, but these guys right here, let me see, focus camera. These guys right here were done with just a zenithal, like medium gray and then a light gray prime. And then I was trying, these are the very first miniatures that I was trying out with Army Painter speed paints. And they didn't quite work the way that I wanted them to on these first miniatures. Now they did on other miniatures. I'm going to do a whole video on them. But you can do some really nice stuff with just gray primer, and it was just primer that I picked up at the hardware store. And then this, I used Army Painter paints on top of that. Now I haven't actually sealed these guys yet, but I'd probably use Army Painter sealers. But actually, you know, I'd probably just go, I've got a bunch of just sealers, flat sealers that I went to the hardware store that I might put on them as well. Now, if you want to do something more detailed, I do have a three or four. It's either 3 or 4 video series on HeroQuest specifically, where I built a 3D dungeon. And then like in whatever the last video on that was, video 3 or video 4, I go through exactly how I painted all of the original miniatures. So I have exactly what primers and paints I used on those. Because I'm trying now, back then I was trying to like do the best paint job I possibly could. And I still want to do good paint jobs, but now my, what I'm trying to do is say, hey, the goal is to paint an entire boxed set to tabletop standard. And I missed with some of these guys here, these guys from HeroQuest, because I was learning how to use the speed paints. But after that, like the mercenaries I've got over there, I think I just about have the speed paints dialed in. So it depends on what type of painting you're supposed to do. Chaos Incarna says, slap chop technique. What I do is definitely listen to Chaos Incarna here, because he's got some fantastic stuff. Slap chop technique. What I use is black primer from Army Painter first, then try other dark primers. Like the Frozen Horror stuff, I used Wolf Gray. Then I used a medium color or gray. Dry brush, and then white or off-white. That's what I'm going to try. All right, I'm going to try that when my new Yetis arrive. Okay, that's what I'm going to try. This, like right here, like I said, this is not the best auxiliary camera, but it's the quick camera that I just turned on. Because I was painting these. Oh, I got like some paint on here. I was painting my ice goblins, and a major problem with my ice goblins. There we go. A major problem with my ice goblins is that they're this camera's not good at focusing. A major problem with these ice goblins is that their tunic and their skin is blue, and Chaos Incarna did a much better color scheme because he's got white skin on his ice goblins, and man, that looks so much better. I would totally do that again, exactly what Chaos Incarna is talking about, if I were to paint these guys again. I might try spending a little bit more time on these guys and trying to make their skin a bit more gray, because it looks so good on what you painted. It's too much blue on this color scheme. I don't like that. Yeah, Chaos Incarnate says it's basically mini painting hacking, but it totally worked. It absolutely totally worked. So like my my Yetis, then my two Yetis, I wanted them to be white, but they're very dark. Now these guys aren't finished yet because I need to. I want to make their hands lighter, and I want to make their teeth white, and I want to make their horns bluer. These guys aren't quite finished yet, but even like their fur here, it's going to be a darker type of fur than I ordinarily would have had. This was an attempt at using speed paint on them. I did not like the way the white speed paint was looking, and earlier on I was putting too much paint on the brush, and so it was running down. So I had to fix these guys. So it was just an attempt here. I'm actually much more okay with the way these polar bears look. I don't know if I'll ever get it to focus. I've got to get a better auxiliary camera. I can do it if I hook the iPad up. The iPad's a better camera, but it's just more technically complex. But these guys, I think, actually look better. They're still not pure white, but I like the color scheme here. I'll post pictures of these to Instagram later when I'm done with them. I'm not quite done with these guys because after seeing Chaos Incarnas, I want to make sure I got white teeth and a really red tongue here and do a bit more detailing on them. But then I'll post them to Instagram and also to the Ravenkeep Discord server. Chaos Incarna says, I used a blue wash on top of that slap chop primer, Wolf Gray, and dry brushes to make their skin color. A blue, that sounds so simple. I would definitely do that again because they look so good. I still want to work a little bit more on my frozen horror here. What I was trying to practice using the speed paints on everything in this box set. This light camera doesn't do it justice. But this guy looks better than he does on camera, but he still needs a bit more work. That's why these guys are still sitting right here by me. I need to try to work with them a little bit more, because that's my goal lately, is to say, hey, the goal is not to paint up one guy. The goal is to paint up this whole box, right? Because I want to have a whole box painted and get them done to a tabletop standard, right? Because I know how to paint miniatures. Not that I'm excellent at it, but if I'm like, all right, I just have this one guy and I want to paint him as best as I can, I know what technique I would use, but I can't paint 50 miniatures using that technique. So that's why I've been deliberately, this is my first attempt exploring with the speed paints to see what I can do with them to try to get whole boxes of miniatures painted up that I can use on dinner and a board game without spending like an inordinate amount of time. Retro Nerd Girl. Hey, Retro Nerd Girl. Wonderful. Glad to see you. Very glad to see you this evening. Chaos Incarna says, I'm making my war bears look like polar bears and a grizzly. Polar, cooler bears. Grizzly will be warm colors. That's good. See, I think I basically have like a hybrid here, because I was planning on having them be like white, but I did end up putting a shade on them, which made them darker. So the top layer of their fur is still white, but the under layer is darker. So they're kind of like a hybrid kind of color. And like I said, I'm not 100% happy with that, but for tabletop standard, I think they're just absolutely fine. I've got a couple more details I want to do to them, but they're fine. Next time when I do the next box with speed paints, I think it's gonna be even better, because like these guys over here, you may still not be able to see because of the camera, but there's a tremendous difference, I think, in quality between these mercenaries that I painted up. These mercenaries I happen to really like. Now, they're not excellent, but I think they are exactly what I wanted out of tabletop quality miniatures, and they're done with 90% speed paint, because the metal, I don't have the metallic speed paints yet. They just came out like 3 days ago or something like that. But for just the general speed paints, these guys are 90% speed paints, and these guys, I would go, these guys are tabletop quality, I'll take them. I painted these guys first, and so it's taken me a bit longer. But I might have it dialed in on what it actually takes to make a miniature tabletop quality using speed paints. I'm going to do another box set and then do a complete review on it. Chaos Incarnate says, I dig it. Looks more grim, realism, grim dark. Mine has been on a kick to make everything look more cartoony. Well, I guess that might be the case. I would say that's probably the case. Mine do have a color scheme, as it turns out, that look a bit more grim dark. And like I said, I'll photograph them in good light and stuff like that later. I got a little bit more work to do on them, but then I'm looking forward to closing out that project. You can see here, I just went gray. I painted gray for the heroes, and so like these guys, these ice goblins, I was done with, and that's why I painted them black. Although there's some kind of stuff or something like that, because I was like, they're done. But then I saw yours, Chaos Incarnate, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit more on the ice goblins because of that. Even this, I posted pictures of this to the Discord server, and I actually think one to Instagram as well. This is the female barbarian. And I don't know if this is bad camera. I'm not going to be able to focus. But she came out about 80%. I don't think there's enough contrast between her skin color and the brown. I would ideally like to have a little bit more contrast there. But she is also 90% speed paints. And I think that came out well. You know, I think it was reasonable. It didn't take me all that long to paint her, and I think it looks okay. Okay, so over here, see, here's my daily. Here's what happened today. See, I gotta get myself back on stuff because you can see. Whoa! Oh my God! This part of my desk is getting very crowded because of all the miniatures and stuff. But my day, I have not been doing core creative time, and I've got to do more core creative time. I was originally going to meet with Brianna today about our stories and the movie scripts, but she just drove in from being away for Christmas, and so we're going to meet on Friday. But I have got to be sure that I'm doing core creative time, either working on the scripts for the movies or writing the RPG rules or the board game rules. Like every day. I got to wake up and do that. I don't know what happened. YouTube, I spent an hour and a half on today. I'm going to spend another hour on it by the time we're done here. And then I spent 4 hours working on General Ravenkeep, and then I cleaned for an hour. And I didn't go outside and walk because it was cold. But starting tomorrow, the temperature should be back up. So tomorrow, man, I got to hit my targets. I got to start hitting my targets. I got to be accountable to you guys to make sure that there's core creative time. There's YouTube going on, of course, because I'm going to be live here. I've got to do just the general Ravenkeep work. I've got to clean this house, and I've got to start the afternoon adventure again tomorrow. So that's what we're going to do. That's where I am. But starting this time, oh, good evening. Oh, Stray says, good evening, everyone. A good day and WIT. Good day and wit will improve tomorrow. I think that's a great one. I think that's a great way to be. So that's a share of my day. Okay. Well, so does anybody have a major topic to discuss tonight? Otherwise, I'm going to discuss knighthood. We've been for at least a few minutes here. That was kind of my idea. I've enjoyed this conversation, the miniatures and stuff like that. That's the purpose of the wind down. Talk geek stuff, but also hold ourselves accountable. Make sure we are getting where we want to be getting throughout the entire day, and it may be a weekly kind of. All right, so what I'll do, let me see. I haven't really prepared a lot of notes on this. I'm going to be winging this, but who knows? But we had talked about this in the past. This is Lighten, right? And this, oh, I got there we go. Don't have the reflection on it. This picture right here is called the Accolade. And I know that a lot of people really like this one and have talked about that, especially on another live stream. I said we were going to talk about it. And I clipped it out, and I also put this on the YouTube channel where we had talked about this picture right here called the Accolade. And I love this image. I mean, a lot of people probably know it, but I love this image. This is called the Accolade, and it has been a major influence upon me. And it's been a major influence upon Rabavania. Because let me show you something. You see her right here in this white dress right here, and she's also got the gold belt on and the gold around her upper arms. Well, you may have noticed. Don't want anything to happen to that. Set that right there for right now. But you may have noticed back here. Move this Skeletor. This is one of the prototypes of my plush toys. Retro Nerd Girl says it's gorgeous. It is. It is. It is gorgeous and is a major inspiration to me. So this is one of my plush toy prototypes. This is Charity. She is a damsel of the Blood Royal. So she's part of this quasi-religious order called the Damsels of the Blood Royal. And you can see that she is wearing a white dress, and she is also wearing a golden belt and some golden trim around her upper arms and also her neck as well. So, yep. Stray says the other is Godspeed, right? I printed out to keep the other company. Yep, Godspeed is sitting right over there. So I've got Godspeed right over there. So that is Godspeed. So I have both of them here in the office. There is another one. I'm not sure what its name is, but I've got to get. It's the one where the knight is standing there and she is tracing his silhouette. He's casting a shadow onto the castle wall, and you can see like the ships are getting ready to leave in the harbor or something like that. And he's standing there and she is tracing his silhouette onto the castle wall because he's casting a shadow. That one's also very powerful. I don't have that one yet. But those are, I want to get that one. I have to put it someplace. I'm running out of room to put art in my house, but I've got to get that one. I've got to find a place for it. But you can see the influence from the Accolade on Tales of Rabavania, because she is a damsel of the Blood Royal, and she's a member of a quasi-religious order who goes around Rabavania and promotes the orders, the qualities and virtues of knighthood, right? It is. Stray says. All right. So, put her over here. And then bring this up. So let me think here. So what do I want to say here? Here we have this. Let me take another drink here. Okay, so let me get more. There we go. More fog here. Okay, so what do I mean by knighthood as a feminine imposition upon the masculine? Because I think about this quite a bit, and it has been definitely very influential in my thinking about the Tales of Rabavania and what it means to be a knight. Okay, because I think that this image right here exemplifies the idea of, we have the knighting ceremony right here with the accolade. We have the accolade of knighthood being conferred, and we have that accolade being conferred by this woman right here, who is extremely archetypically feminine. And then we also have this very masculine warrior right here, and we see that he's here kneeling down, head bowed, and that she is dubbing him a knight, right? So this is what's conferring upon him knighthood. Well, it's the feminine, right? And I think that's extremely powerful here, that we have the idea of knighthood as something that is feminine, that is being imposed upon this masculine warrior, right? Because I think a lot about, in terms of, well, just general storytelling or general ideas, but also specifically in the context of the Tales of Rabavania, what is the difference between a knight and a warrior? Okay, because not all cultures in this world that I'm developing have knights. The rabbits do. The rabbits have this specific institution, which is knighthood, but not everybody does. Not all the different animals do. For instance, put that right here. Here, so here is my prototype of a rabbit knight right here, and this is Sir Bors right here. Okay, so he's a knight in Rabavania, and then this right here is a raccoon warrior, and specifically, this is a raccoon huskarl. So this is a huskarl in the raccoon culture. So the raccoons do not have knights; they have warriors, and specifically the huskarls. So the most elite of the raccoon warriors, excuse me, are the huskarls. So the raccoons have their huskarls, and then the rabbits have their knights. So what is the difference in being a knight and being a raccoon warrior and even an elite raccoon huskarl? What is the difference between those two things? What is knighthood? How is knighthood distinguished for that? And to me, the answer is that imposition of the feminine. That knighthood, these warriors, because I don't want to shy away in the storytelling about the knights being killers. I mean, the knights are warriors. That is their job as warriors and knights in the kingdom of Rabavania. They are expected to be warriors at the call of the king, okay? But then also in other ways, generally protecting the Rabavanian populace. If there is a snake, for instance, you know, the knights do have a bunch of privileges within society, but within that society, they also have a lot of obligations and they have a lot of responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities is that, for instance, if you're riding around and there is a snake or a water moccasin, you know, a water moccasin is a snake, but a water moccasin or something that is threatening the mice or the peasantry or something like that, what are you expected to do as a knight? You are expected to immediately and without hesitation ride into battle to do battle with that creature, right? And take it out and keep other people safe. Self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice is a major part of knighthood in the stories that I'm writing. So the knights are expected to be self-sacrificing. Your life is not your own when you accept the accolade of knighthood. You're going to get a bunch of benefits from society, but you also have a tremendous amount of responsibility to society as well. And the responsibility primarily comes in the area of physical harm, right? That you are expected to put yourself, your body, in between threatening things and the general populace, because you are a knight. That is your job. Your job is battle and war. But every society has to deal with a couple of things, and I think this is kind of basic anthropological stuff. And I did study a bunch of anthropology when I was an undergrad. I took a bunch of anthropology classes. I had a minor in anthropology, and then also my specialization and my major was geoarchaeology. So we talked a lot about this kind of stuff. And, you know, there are a couple of things that each society has to do, like across human civilization. Let's say not counting the last 50 years, but like generally speaking, because we've had technological changes in the last 50 years. But barring the technological changes of the last 50 years, there are a couple of things that every human society has to deal with in some way. And those things are the first thing, which is not the major topic of the night, but the first thing is the fertility of the women. Like, that's why I'm talking about in the last 50 years, we have like something like the birth control pill, and we have better ways to control birth control, so that women can better control their reproductive or better control their reproduction. That's a very new thing. So barring the last, 50 years or whatever it is since we've had like birth control, societies have to deal with, how do we deal with the women getting pregnant and being and reproducing? How do we handle that situation? That's not really our topic for tonight. The other thing that societies have to deal with is aggressive men, right? We got to deal with aggressive men in some way, especially men. If you're humans, now the rabbits aren't human. And I was talking about this morning, like, how do I deal with rabbit age? That's not really the topic of tonight, too. But We'll just have to deal with that in some other way. But every society has to deal with, well, aggressive men. How do you deal with aggressive men, specifically between the ages of like 16 and 26, maybe 24 or something like that? You've got extreme aggression in men between the ages of like 16 and 24 or something like that. And how do you deal with that? Well, in Rabavania, one of the ways they deal with that, because they need aggressive men, and I don't want to shy away from that in the storytelling, that the aggression of, now of course they're called bucks. I love that the rabbits, you have does, a female rabbit is a doe, and then a male rabbit is called a buck, and so the rabbits can actually tell each other to buck up. But it's very necessary in Rabavanian society to have very violent and aggressive bucks, men. They really value that because they're rabbits. They're not high up on the food chain, right? And if they are going to be able to survive, there are a whole bunch of different animals, coyotes, snakes, for instance. There are a whole bunch of things that will eat rabbits. And if they are trying to carve out this kingdom out of the wilderness, well, do you know what they're going to need? They're going to need a lot of aggressive and violent bucks, a lot of aggressive and violent men. Yes, right. The Chaos Incarnate says send them to war. That's the old school answer. They send them to war, right? And they need them to go to war, right? So they need them to go to war because they are not, apex carnivores or anything like that. They're low on the food chain, and yet they figured out in the context of the world how to forge armor and how to make weapons. So that changes everything. But you're supposed to be brave because rabbits are not naturally brave. So that's why in Rabavania, one of the highest qualities of knighthood is bravery. You're supposed to be brave because most rabbits are not going to be brave. They're going to run away. But if you are a knight, you are not supposed to run away. You are expected to put your body between the foe and whoever it is that you are protecting. So they do that. They send them to war, and they need them to protect them. I mean, it's not just sending someone to war because, hey, we got to get rid of these people, but also threats are coming to them because there are all these other types of animals that eat rabbits, snakes, the water moccasins. I've got a bunch of the coyotes, the raccoons. Don't necessarily eat rabbits, but the raccoons are the foes. There's a bunch of foes that the rabbits are going to have to deal with. And so they want aggressive and violent men to be a part of society. And I want that to be a part of knighthood. In fact, I've got a story where I specifically want, this guy right here, the Good Knight sword right here. This is Pate. Whoops. This is Pate right here, and he is the main character of Good Knight Sword, and he's an orphan, and he is a page who wants to become, he's not a page yet, but he wants to become a knight. And so, actually, it is Charity right here. It's Charity who finds him because she's part of the religious order, that quasi-religious order that promotes the virtues of knighthood. She finds orphan Pate here and says, hey, do you want to become a knight? Sounds cool, doesn't it? And of course, Pate's like, yeah, that sounds really cool. I mean, think of all the adventure and everything that goes along with being a knight. Then what you need to do is become a page of the hall. Become a page. If you're a page, then you can attract the attention of a knight and you can become a squire. Right? And so Pate is like, hey, that sounds great. So when you see him in Good Knight Sword, he's actually already become a page of the hall because he's sleeping in the hall and he's saying good night to everything in the hall. So there's a story that goes with Pate that I've been working on for Good Knight Sword, where Charity here has picked him up and set him on the road to knighthood, right? So you need all of that. Now there's the question, like, what is that a moral thing to have happened here? Because Pate is an orphan, and yes, he's enthralled by knights because he sees them practicing on the practice field, and it's a life of high adventure, and he's an orphan, and he doesn't get to do much stuff. It looks like the knights get to do all this stuff, and so Charity is like, hey, become a knight. Let me show you how. And he's like, all right, let me do it. And then he becomes the page of the hall. But then again, there's a big cost to becoming a knight, and that cost is that you are a killer. You are expected to be a killer, and I don't want to shy away from that. in the stories. And I was talking to Lou about a year ago, because he's a middle grade author, a traditional published middle grade author, and I was like, I want the Knights of Rabavania. I don't want it to be. It's family friendly. I want the Rabavania to be family friendly, but I also take it very seriously, and it takes itself very seriously, because there are lots of different things that you might have as like, hey, rabbits and knights and something like that, and the knights never actually hit anything with their sword, kind of like He-Man. In He-Man, the original cartoon, well, He-Man can draw a sword, but he can never actually kill anything with the sword, and that's not how I want Rabavania to be. When it comes to battle, when it comes to conflict, I mean, the Rabavanian knights, they draw swords, they get into fights, arms and legs get chopped off, people die. I mean, I don't want to shy away from the fact that, hey, when there's a battle, that the knights are expected to be warriors, and they're expected to be extremely efficient warriors, and they're what defends Rabavania from everything else from the outside. So when things go bad, there can be violence in that, because I always wanted that as a kid. I'm just trying to make the kind of thing that I want as a kid. And even though I watched a bunch of He-Man and I watched a bunch of different other things like that, I was always, even as a kid, really aware of when you have a knight or a warrior or something like that, when they are supposed to fight, but then the show actually doesn't let them fight. They either end up being friends, or the person doesn't actually cut them open with a sword or something like that. They bump them on the head or something like that, and it's kind of a silly kind of battle or something like that. That is not what I want from Rabavania. When they decide to go to war, I mean, we're serious about there being a war, even though overall it's a family-friendly kind of context. I don't want to shy away from the fact that that's what they're doing. They're going to fight. They're going to be violent in that time, and also managing that violence is a big part of that, right? I've got a specific situation that goes on there when one particular warren was under siege, and they broke in, and then that invading army lost discipline and overran the warren. And this is like a major breach and a major problem in Rabavania. And I want the knights in this other, the main place, to be talking to the squires and being like, do you know what happened at this place under the siege? They broke in, and then after the battle was over, they had won. But after they had won, they still lost discipline. And so there was a ransack, they sacked the place, and there was great carnage. And so I want the knights in this other place saying, those people lost discipline, but you will not. You will not. That when the time you are expected as a knight, you're a squire, you're being trained. When it comes to knighthood, you are expected to be able to let loose a tremendous amount of violence in the direction that you are supposed to send it out. And then as soon as that enemy is defeated, it's over. You're supposed to be back with self-restraint, that you don't go forward like what happened to this particular place. Chaos Incarna says, is it high fantasy, low fantasy, or no magic? Okay, well, now we've talked how exactly we define high fantasy, low fantasy, and no magic. We've talked about that, and that would be a whole nother entire conversation about how we should define high fantasy, low magic, and low fantasy and no magic. But in the round, we won't get drug into that conversation tonight. I would say in the round, it is low fantasy. I love low fantasy. I would say that both Tales of Rabavania and Theophany, I personally define them in the general terms as low fantasy. They're not high fantasy worlds. I don't think. They're both low fantasy worlds. Theophany definitely has magic, because there is a magic. Theophany is the other world that I'm telling, and Theophany is actually an adult world that is like Game of Thrones, HBO Game of Thrones. So sex, violence, and stuff like that. And that can be explicit. Tales of Rabavania is intended to be very serious and hardcore, but yet family friendly. Theophany tells the fall of the story of Lucifer in an HBO Game of Thrones kind of way. Both of them, I would say, are low magic, but there is definitely magic in Theophany, because like the angels and Lucifer have a kind of magic that they do, but I would still consider it a low fantasy kind of magic. I also consider Rabavania low magic. It has druids in it, and it has witches, but I really want to be sure that you're not exactly sure if the magic is working or not. I've read some stories that I really like that you're not exactly sure whether or not the magic worked. It's like, okay, even in Rabavania, well, even in Theophany, which there is magic, you're still not shooting a fireball. But you're not going to find anybody in the Tales of Rabavania, either the druids or the witches, shooting a fireball. That's not something that's going to happen there. But there is, they at least all believe that they have magic powers. And then whether or not they actually do, I kind of want to be up to the reader to decide. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Chaos Incarnate says, I'm already thinking about how rabbit knights fight in combat, like a class of warrior called a lancer, i.e. Final Fantasy, where they jump high in the air and land on their enemies with their spear. Well, that would be cool. That would be cool. I have not played Final Fantasy, so I don't know a lot about Final Fantasy. Now, the rabbits do ride something. So the rabbit knights do ride, have something to ride like knights. Like knights have horses. Obviously, the rabbit knights can't ride horses, but they do have a mounted contingent as well. That's a big part of being a knight, is that you operate mounted. But jumping is a big part of that, and also because it's not a horse that they ride, I want you to be able to see a more nimble kind of knight riding a more nimble kind of creature. Jumping, even the angels, when the angels in Theophany come down, I want them to come down and come out of the air if they're attacking something and drive their lances through something. Retro Nerd Girl says, I'm enjoying the tone of your story. Well, thank you. I'm glad. I'm really looking forward to bringing this out. I'm going to get back to the knighthood in just a moment. But over the past, basically year, I was writing the stories, and I got about 80% of the way through this book. The stories about the legendary, the legends, the legendary figures of Rabavania. So whether or not this happened exactly directly, it's not clear. But as far as Rabavania is concerned, what are its legends about its god or one of its gods? I was writing all of this story, and I got about 80% of the way through this book, and I got in contact with somebody who whose opinion I really value, right? And I said, all right, let me send you this stuff that I want to send, because I was really hoping that I was getting close to the point where I could release some Rabavania stuff, because I've been wrong-footed, because I wanted to be able to start releasing Rabavania stories and stuff about now or next month, and then start 2023. But I wrote all this stuff, and then I sent it to this person whose opinion I really highly value, and he read it all, and then he wrote back to me and said, you cannot release this. This is a no-go. You cannot do this. This is not good. And he gave me lots of reasons. We talked for 2 or 3 hours, I think, on the whole, about why I can't release that story because of its structure and what I need to do with it. I thought it was great information, but it's basically going to require an entire rewrite of that story. And he said, but anyway, if you want to try to pitch something and do something with the Tales of Rabavania, you don't need this kind of story that you were trying to write over the past year. You need this other kind of story. And so that's been since about last September. So since September, I was like, all right, well then screw everything I've been trying to write for a year. I'll come back to that because it's going to take extensive rewrites. But I need to write the kind of story that people are going to want to listen to about Tales of Rabavania. And so I've been completely starting that over, and I haven't gotten to write it, but I do have. That's when I show the. I don't have it. Oh no, I do. My box of index cards. So this is my Rabavania. This is my Rabavania box of index cards, and I've been talking to this person as I've been trying to rewrite the Rabavania story. So the Rabavania story that's going to first appear is here in this box. So that's going well, but I'm behind where I was expecting to be. Theophany? Yep, Theophany sounds cool. It's theophany. I'll put that in the chat. Theophany, and that's basically a revelation from heaven. So that's the theophany is supposed to tell the story of the fall of Lucifer. I've been fascinated by that story. I've been fascinated by both of these stories ever since I was a kid. I started writing Rabivania when I was in 6th grade, and I started writing out by hand. So I've been trying to write the Tales of Rabivania ever since 6th grade, and then I've been trying to write Rabivania. Excuse me. I've been trying to write Theophany, the Fall of Lucifer, ever since about 9th grade. So these two ideas have been with me ever since middle and high school, and now it's time to actually get them done. Now it's time to actually get them done. That's why. That's what I'm trying to do here. But what I was talking about with the management of how do you manage male aggression in society, especially when you need it. Like you need male aggression, especially in Rabivania, because it's a hostile world. I mean, things will eat you, right? You're a rabbit. Things are going to eat you. So having very violent and aggressive men who are willing to defend you, who are willing to go into battle is a good thing, right? So they need that. But at the same time, they need to manage it somehow, right? Because we're not talking about the management of the fertility of the women right now. Although, the women in Rabivania have whole litters of children, and I want to bring that in too, because human women have one or maybe might have twins or something, but most of the time it's one kid. But I've been trying to think about what happens in Rabivania when most of the women have a whole litter of children at one time, right? So I've been thinking about that, but this isn't the conversation. This conversation is about, well, what do you do with these guys that you really, really need, and you need them to be violent, but you also need them to be able to integrate into society? Well, what you do is you establish something called knighthood, right? So knighthood, you're supposed to be extremely aggressive, extremely violent, but you're supposed to have all of your aggression and violence under control, right? A knight. So that's what's supposed to be the difference between a warrior, or one of the huskarls of the raccoons, and a Rabivanian knight, is that the knight has all of this aggression and violence marshaled or, controlled in some way by this feminine value overlay that is knighthood. So that's why I say that knighthood is a feminine imposition upon the masculine, because if you just have a violent individual, you could have a warrior, right? And the raccoons have warriors, and other cultures have warriors, and there can even be Rabivanian warriors who don't have this. But then what is it that the most violent picture here, the most violent and the most capably violent people in their society should be knights, right? Because they train all the time. I mean, they are training for warfare, but they're supposed to restrain their violence by an imposition of some feminine values upon them, right? Chivalry. Now, chivalry, I do think of in a very strict way, because some people use in today's world chivalry as a synonym for courtesy. And we also have courtesy in Rabivania. Courtesy is a big thing. But chivalry is something that you do for other knights, right? Your code of chivalry. People talk about when you open the door for women or something like that, if you're a guy, that's being chivalry. Okay, but I'm using an older term, chivalry, in Rabivania, that chivalry is your code of honor and your code of operations to other knights. If there are other knights who are operating on the field, you are supposed to have, operate. You were supposed to treat them with chivalry. Now, courtesy is something different. You're also supposed to be also supposed to be courteous when you're back at home. What do you do when you're back at home? When you're back in the Great Hall, when you're at the feast, when you're at the dance. The knight is also supposed to have, be very courteous, right? And that's not the time for violence. That's not the time for aggression. That's the time when all of that is marshaled, especially under the feminine values of knighthood. Stray says, when the knights call each other brother. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I think so. That once you receive the accolade of knighthood, especially in Rabavania, then right, you're actually, there are different kingdoms in Rabavania, but you're not a knight of the kingdom. The knighthood is supposed to be you're supposed to become a knight of all of Rabavania, and so all of the other knights are your brothers, right? This is supposed to be a chivalric order that goes across all of Rabavania. So I don't know. Maybe I made my point. Maybe I didn't. I was trying to say that. Well, how do you manage violent individuals, especially when you need hyper-violent individuals, and you want these people to be extremely capable? So I want all the knights that you can't. That may not be the first thing that's noticed when you're becoming a squire, but by the time that you're finished becoming a squire and you're about to become a knight, in order to become a knight, you are supposed to be an extremely capable and violent individual. I mean, you know, you've been training for war for years. I mean, you are supposed to be able to really bring it when it comes to warfare. But you can't only be able to bring it when it comes to warfare. You have got to be able to what sets you apart as a knight from other just general warriors is your ability to control your violence, and society has done that by putting this feminine overlay upon them, which is knighthood. Does that make sense? So that's why I say that that the knighthood is the feminine imposition upon the masculine. How do you deal with these hyper-violent individuals that you need? You put this feminine overlay on them. That's what I'm working with in Rabavania anyway. That's my philosophy of knighthood. Does it make sense? And I do want the knights in some other later books to be dealing with that. You know, that they are very masculine, hyper-violent men, but they're bucks because they're rabbits. They're hyper-violent men. And does their knighthood and their vows of chivalry and their oath of knighthood sometimes come in conflict with what their instincts are? They're supposed to follow their code of knighthood. Retro Nerd Girl sounds awesome. Well, wonderful. All right. I hope so. I've got I don't want to talk about it too much, but the very first story that once I've been writing my stories in Rabavania about the legendary god, and then that got bounced. I'm going to return to it. It's good stuff. But he was right to bounce it. He said, don't release this. But this, the new story that's supposed to be the first Rabavania story, is about a guy who needs to become a squire. He wants to become a knight, but he has to learn self-sacrifice. He's behind on his martial training. He's not a good swordsman because he's been doing other things. And so I was like, well, even when you become a squire, even if you're not where you're supposed to be as far as your swordsmanship skills goes, because the pages should be learning swordsmanship. But there may be some circumstances where, well, as with this individual right here, well, you're not up to snuff with your swordsmanship. You're behind where you should be. But what matters more than your current skill with the sword is your values. And this first story is about self-sacrifice. You have to be self-sacrificing to be a knight. You have to be willing to put the needs of others before your own. And if you are able to do that, then you might get picked up as a squire by one of the other knights. And then you're going to have to pick up your martial training, because there's no way you can become a knight if you're not a killer. But that's not the first thing they look for. They're not looking for the first thing is that, hey, you're where you're supposed to be. You can catch up on your swordsmanship. We're looking at your values. Knights endure. Warriors burn the candle at both ends. Knights are a slow burn. Yeah. I like that too. They're a slow burn, or, they burn fast. Like, ideally, I'm thinking that they burn fast when they're expected to. Oh, we're in battle now. Or there's somebody I got to protect. Burn fast. Like, we are all in. But then as soon as that situation is over, the knight is expected to snap back and not keep going, right? The situation resolved. The knight they're supposed to stop, and marshal themselves. Threat over. I'm done. So I want that to, right? Controlled burn, right? Yeah, the knights are a very controlled burn. That's exactly what I want it to be, because I want. I haven't written this part yet, but I want this situation that they've heard, where there was this warren, which they're rabbits, so instead of cities you have warrens, where the warren was under siege. It was a long siege, it was a brutal siege, whatever. Once it was broken and the warren was taken, that's when the knights are supposed to stop, because they're not supposed to rampage, ransack, and pillage after it's over. But those knights lost control, and then some horrible things happened at that war. And so that's the example that no one is supposed to repeat. So all the knights at this other castle around this warren are telling their squires, like, look, listen, this happened at this other warren, and it will not happen. You will not allow that to happen. You have got to be like, basically, but it's a very difficult thing to say. You're supposed to basically turn on and turn off like a light switch. You're supposed to be courteous and everything like that, and you're supposed to fit into society, and then all of a sudden there is danger, and then you are supposed to flip like a light switch into battle mode. And you're supposed there's nothing that's going to stop you right then. You're going to take out whatever the danger is, and no risk to yourself, right? And then once you kill whatever that is that's the problem, you're supposed to turn immediately right back like a light switch, and then stop. Right, so that's the controlled part of that. That's the idealized part of knighthood, right? So it's trying to have it both ways. It's trying to have it both ways. You've got to perfectly integrate into society, but also you've got to be. We want you to turn on and be hyper violent in exactly the right situations, and that's later. I want that to express the difficulty in that, because I want there to be there's a different religion that. The knights are supposed to be of one particular religion in Rabavania, but there's an alternate religion that's kind of underground that deals with, the trauma. And like I said, this is why Rabavania, I want it to be family friendly, but I also want it to be very serious. Because, okay, if you are a hyper violent individual and you go and you kill things, right, and you're expected to immediately, and after that threat is over, you're expected to immediately turn off, and then, be your courteous part of society again. Is there ever a psychological consequence to that? And I want that to be something that particular religion doesn't really recognize. But then there's an alternate kind of underground religion that is a warrior's religion that does kind of address potentially the psychological part of, maybe you're not okay. Like, maybe that's an unrealistic expectation that you can just immediately turn off and then return to polite society after the battle is over, right? And some knights might have a problem with that, and they deal with that by being part of another religion on the down low. I can't wait to do this. These two stories, like I said, I've been wanting to do these stories since about 6th grade and 9th grade. Right. Yep. The Knights. Yep. I want to have the Knights Hospitaller, something like that as well, because they're the warrior monks. So you don't have to be a monk to be a knight, but I want there to be an order of knightly monks, like you're talking about with the Knights Knights Hospitaller or the Knights Templar, right? Both of them. You've got these orders of knights who are also monks. I want to have that in there as well, so that's there as well. But I was talking about the secular monks. The secular knights. I mean, they're religious. They're part of a religion. That doesn't mean they actually have like monks oath, right? You don't have to take the monk's oath. I'm just talking about secular knights, but they're expected to adhere to a certain religion and their values. So I'm very excited about this. I've been trying to figure out how to get this done for well, ever since then, I took a long detour through academia. I went through college and then graduate school, and then was a professor for a little while. And I didn't work on anything related to any of these worlds or any of these stories or anything like that during that term. During that time, I tried a little bit once I got a job as a professor at the University of Illinois to write theophany in the evenings, but I wrote a bunch of stuff that, again, that didn't really matter. And then I started working on board games with my brother, and we were supposed to be starting working on theophany when I was working with Infinite Black, but that didn't work. We made a bunch of dice. So now it's time to try to get both theophany and Rabavania off the ground. But I wrote a bunch of stuff that didn't work. That's actually why something like a Patreon or something like that, I'm trying to come up with the right format for all this. But like a Patreon was not going to work, because if people wanted to support, for instance, Rabavania, well, I worked for about 10 months on a story that I was told don't release. that I was actually told, do not release this. You only got one shot at this. People will not like this story. Don't release this story. Well, what would I do then? So I'm working on a new story. So I got to figure out how to release all. Retro Nerd Girl says, I'm sure the Knights may have some of their I'm sure the Knights may have some that abuse their position in society. That could be interesting too. Yes. Because of this is complicated. This is a really complicated part of this too. Because yes, on one level, just because of the kind of story that I want to tell, I want the Knights to be the heroes. I want you to look up to the Knights. So because I want the story to be telling you that the virtues of knighthood are virtuous, you want to live up to the virtues of knighthood. I don't want to have a lot of knights that are not that. So I want the knights in general to be heroes in the story. The knights are heroes. But it's very interesting from a storytelling perspective to say what happens when it goes wrong. And so at least one knight, and I have this particular individual in mind for the role in the story they've got to play, is what you're talking about. That this knight, it may not, in his case, it may not, well, it is abusing his position in society, but it's also a much deeper embrace of violence. He's like, I realize I can get what I want through violence, and he doesn't restrain himself. And so he's the dark side of this. The dark side, I guess you could talk about this in terms of Star Wars. He's the dark side. So I don't want there to be too many of those, because I do want to portray the knights in this world as heroes. You want to be a knight. But at the same time, what happens if you do embrace things that are, if you embrace too much of the hostile or violent side of your knighthood? What goes wrong? There needs to be a character that exemplifies that. And like that's these people over here, they can't defend themselves. They don't have enough knighthood, so to speak. Okay, then you get to these people who are the knights who can defend all these people, and they have self-control. But then we do need an example of somebody who goes beyond that and doesn't have self-control and realizes that, hey, violence may just be the end, the key to the end, or the means to the end here. Now, because mainly what I want to do is represent that by warriors. So, like for instance, like I was saying, the raccoons that are the this is the Huskarl of one of the raccoon jarls. The raccoons who are not knights, they might embrace violence. And then you can see what happens if you don't have the feminine imposition upon the knights. Like, because you don't have that in the raccoon society, they're unencumbered by that. So they're the opposition. Right. So that's mainly how I want to show that in the Tales of Rabavania. But I do have an important idea for at least one knight in order to show that counter. Right. To show what happens if you, like I was saying, if you lean too hard into your violence and hostility. All right. Well, that was a fantastic conversation, I think. What do you think? I think it's a story. I think both of these are stories that need to be told. I think I think there are people who will like the kinds of stories I'm trying to tell in Rabavania, and in Theophany as well, Theophany, even though it's about the fall of Lucifer, it's not Christian or Judaic or Muslim fantasy. It's not that. It's not any kind of religious text. It just draws, or any kind of religious literature. It just draws upon those themes to tell a story. So obviously, I want to tell the story of the fall, and that's why Brianna and I were studying Anakin Skywalker. Like we talked about Anakin Skywalker. She also, one of her scripts that she's been writing, I don't think this is a secret because I think she may have talked about it when we were talking about Anakin Skywalker. But one of the scripts that she's writing and already has the first draft done is also a corruption arc. She, for whatever reason, she and I are both very interested in the stories of corruption. So obviously, if you're telling the story of the fall of Lucifer, you're telling a corruption arc ultimately. So that one is about corruption, and Brianna's been working on corruption too. So we've been tossing ideas back and forth. I haven't gotten to write Theophany yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the story for Rabavania, this first story. I'm going to clearance on that, and I'm going to write the whole first draft of that film. I'm going to write the screenplay for film first, and then I'm going to do Theophany. What's the first Theophany film that would deal with Lucifer and his fall? So that's next. So Retro Nerd Girl says, this interests me because I'm creating a project with both a playful aesthetic but serious tone in the writing stages and collecting assets to film at the moment. Well, yeah, that's very interesting. I would say that's very similar to Rabavania, because I don't want, when I'm writing about the rabbits, and I'm hoping that I'm even expressing this in the tone of the action figures here. They're serious, and their story is serious, but I can see opportunities. There are opportunities for humor in the presentation of this film because they're small, right? So that I can see, and they interact with the mice, things like that, who are even smaller. So even though I don't expect the script to be humorous, the script is going to be dealing with serious items in a family-friendly way, but in a serious subjects in a family-friendly way. Once you actually depict that visually, I think there are opportunities for some humor, right? Because, like, even like I was talking about, like an apple. If somebody comes and picks up an apple, I mean, they're small. So if he picks up an apple, I mean, it's gonna be this gigantic, apple in his hands. Retro Nerd Girl says, both stories sound amazing. Really, can't wait to see more development of this. Thank you. Well, that's why I started the morning grind. So we're going to be developing both of them here, because that's what I'm doing. I've been trying to do this ever since, like I said, 6th and 9th grade. So now is the time. It's going to happen. This is what I'm doing. All hands on deck. These are the stories that I'm trying to tell, and I'm going to try to get these things out in whatever way I can. I was told to do the screenplays first. Now, because I've always wanted to write novels. So I'm going to write novels too. But my advice from this individual who I value his advice was like, go ahead and do the screenplay first. Get the information, get everything ready to pitch a movie first, because that'll be faster. Then once you have everything, the story written down, and you have the screenplay, then take that and write the novel. So I'm going to do the screenplays first, then I'll write the novel. And who knows how I'm going to release the novel. Independently, or maybe find an agent. I have no idea, so we will see. But first is to make sure the stories are dead on, so when I release them, people will like it. All right, well, I've got to get out of here. I've got more things to do this evening. We've been going for about an hour and a half tonight. Wow. So I guess we will go to Goodnight Sword, which is the very first Tales of Rabavania book that has been released. So I guess I will leave you with Goodnight Sword. And then, I got more work to do after this, but then I got to go to bed because I got to be up early in the morning. I want to hit the 5 a.m. tomorrow in the morning. So, all right. So let's go to Goodnight Sword. The first Tales of Rabavania.
Written by
Story
E.
ever
H.
released.
Robinson.
Gotta get this
Illustrated
digital
by
printing. Gotta
Adam
get this
M.
digital.
Boxford. Narrated by Brianna De Silva. Part of the Tales of Rabavania. Good night, sword. Good night, gourd. Good night, guards who keep us all safe. Good night, dagger. And the iron hauberk. Good night, cheese. Good night, keys. Good night, elm. And good night, helm. Good night, squire. And good night, liar. Good night, shield. And good night to the lance only the gallant wield. Good night, banner. And good night, jewel. Good night, gruel. Good night, knights. And good night to the old soldier who says time's been cruel. Good night, maiden fair, whose favor I bear. Good night, rabbits everywhere.